Hey, how's it going, everybody? So I've seen a few other YouTubers doing stuff like this, and I thought it would be a cool little way to sort of go full circle with how my channel even started, which is to say, sort of like little documents, little diaries, little, whatever you want to call them, little whatever's on my mind, what I'm working on this week, today, all that cool stuff, and turn it into like a little bite-sized, little thing you can have playing in the background. My hat goes off to Sketchcraft. Go check his channel out, Rob. He started this, I think, at the time of this recording, 2 or 3 days ago, and it's gonna look and probably seem like I'm swiping what he's doing, and for better or for worse, I suppose I am. But the intent is coming from a good place. It's not just a rip off on something that I think is the next thing. Like I said, I've seen other, not just art channels, but YouTube channels in general doing this sort of thing. And what I'm saying with the full circle sort of stuff is, when I first started this channel, I tried going back, and actually I don't even think I can go back as far as I can. I think my channel's 6 or 7 years old now. And when we first started, it was just a way for me to create every day. And it was mostly funny enough. How I was recording those old videos back then was I had a very cheap webcam that didn't zoom in, and the resolution wasn't very that good. But back then, YouTube, I think there was definitely the channels that had crisp visuals, right? But for the most part, they were all pretty. It was what it was. But I couldn't get a setup to draw and still record at the same time. So I remember wearing. It wasn't this tight as an elastic band that you might think of, like a generic elastic band. It was a little bit bigger of an elastic band, and it wasn't so tight. It was stretched out and pretty loose, but I could wear it around my neck like a necklace. In hindsight, just get a necklace, John. Why are you trying to take it all away, and then choke yourself out while you're drawing? But at the time, it was fine. It was just a little elastic, and it was very thin, right? So it didn't do anything. Then I could just hook that clip to the elastic band, and then I could record myself drawing, and that was it. And I would sort of talk about not even what I was necessarily drawing. It was just, again, with no intent of where we're at now. Not that this channel is blowing up into something amazing or anything like that. From the start to going into tutorials to where I feel like we're at now, which is just more documentation and sharing process, not in terms of this is how you draw a head. I think there's a bajillion of those videos out there. This is more, if you guys are interested in my take on what's going on and stuff like that. So the intent of these little videos here, I would like to do them. I would like to say I'm committing to daily ones, but that kind of task seems pretty crazy. But at the same time, I know what it can be like to sort of dig these sort of things. You find somebody doing something and you look forward to it. And the more content updates, the better. So I don't want to say daily right now, but daily. And just, we'll go through it. I want to keep them under around 10 minutes or so. That way I can still get back to drawing and all that stuff. So let's do some updates. Let's see what's going on. So today I'm actually, last night... Actually, let me back up a little bit. If you're on Patreon or if you're here on YouTube, all that cool stuff, I made a video, and I don't want to continually harp on this because I feel like it's almost asking for sympathy at this point, and that's not even the intent at all. There's a little dark period I was going through with just everything in general, but what was happening was art. It felt like art was the reason why I was going through some of this stuff. In a lot of ways it was, and it is. And luckily there's a book that I've had for such a long time, and I remember reading it like the first 2 chapters. It's called The War of Art, not The Art of War, The War of Art, by Stephen Pressfield. And the way he talks in that book, it's not counter to sort of like my beliefs, where I'm, in a lot of ways trying to be super positive with stuff, but with realistic expectations. I'm a big believer of you can't have pure happiness all the time. There's no balance there, right? There has to be a counterbalance in some way. I like to look at it, and I've said this one, and I'll butcher it because the amount of times that I've quoted this quote, you think I would have done some research and got it right. I think it's from a movie called Vanilla Sky. Not that it's the best movie, but I just like the context that it wraps it in, right? Like, you can't have love, and he's talking about it in terms of like flavor, right? So you can't have the sweet without the bitter, because if all you had was sweet, you would forget what sweet's about. And I'm a big believer of that. So anyway, this War of Art book, just a lot of what he was talking about, it started to resonate with me of like, again, not this, like, I'm sort of hesitant to talk about this stuff. It's not the dark stuff that I know that there's a lot of people that go through. I wasn't there. I was getting close to it. And, I honestly feel for all of you guys and girls out there that are going through that, or, and if you've gone through it and you're past it, you know what I'm talking about. And if you're kind of like where I was, where you're like on the edge, not that you're just going to plunge deep in, but you're aware of what's your marbles are still in contact, you know where everything's going on, all that stuff. So a lot of what he was talking about in that was sort of like this warrior attitude in a lot of ways. And for a long time, I call like the romanticizing art. I like to get that out of there. I don't want to romanticize it about like, every day us artists, we sit down as a knight and we're trying to slay a dragon. That kind of stuff. But for whatever reason, this time while I was reading it, it was just resonating with me. And I was like, you know what? It feels more like a dragon nowadays. And it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. And I highly recommend reading the book. I don't want to turn this first little episode here into a, hey, here's a little breakdown of that book. He's the whole idea, if this sounds interesting to you, go pick it up, is resistance. And the difference between an amateur and a professional is the professional knows that everything is resistance, especially when it's something you love dearly. Because if there wasn't resistance, again, that's why I say I like that counterbalance. If there wasn't that resistance, then you wouldn't even care. If you want the love, you got to have the resistance. Looking at to be fair, looking at my Cintiq sometimes, or however I'm going to draw, it's just like the drive is there. But then when I look to actually go do it, it's like, ugh. And I think that's been a fault of mine for a very, 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 very long time. A lot of varies there. So it's just a little shift in mindset. I'm committed now, and this is sort of like the help to my upswing, I suppose you could call it. Of things just feel good, feel way more on track. It's just a decision again. I don't want to say I'm basing my whole life off some guy's opinion that he wrote in a book, but sometimes that's just the way things line up. And I'm very fortunate for that. So the idea here is, in a lot of the ways he was talking about, is I don't want to say manning up or growing up or whatever, but thinking more professionally about this sort of stuff. Not in terms of like how am I going to make money and all that, but it's the small little habits that I want to do, like continual work. And I think this kind of thing will help me just to voice it, and talk to you guys about it and let you guys know what I'm doing, working on, all that cool stuff. I know, I don't want to turn it into all a big sob fest. I like to talk a little bit of stories, what's happening that day, that week, all that cool stuff, So yeah, we're going to be drawing every day. I'm not going to be streaming all the time. I still have a full-time job, right? But the switch to pro in my mind is, again, it's not like I need to make a certain amount of money or I need to work at like a Marvel DC or any of those things. You can work professionally just by changing your mind, really. And that's what another thing that book talks about. And I highly agree. It's just that attitude change of just putting in the work. And that's really all it is, right? It's always been that, and it's never not been that. It's just I think a lot of us, we kind of get carried away a little bit, maybe in your day-to-day, or I know what it's like to go to work. I sit at a desk job doing video game work, but it's not as glorious as it might sound. A lot of it's like HUD and UI and pop-ups, not stuff that's storytelling, and that's what I have come to find out that I enjoy what comics give me. It's not that I think the comics medium is the end-all, be-all, but I enjoy and adore storytelling, and in any way that can come. Except for some reason, I've noticed that like cartoons, they just don't scratch me the same way that like a movie or a video game or even a comic book or a novel do it. And I think that's just an attitude change I'm going to check out, because I know there's so many really good animations and stuff that I feel like I'm hamstringing myself by not checking out. But in finding my why, I made a video on that. And I encourage you guys to really do that as well, because when you start getting into these, like, I don't want to even say dark times, but like doubtful times, you know, those times that just like beat you down, because it's never going to go away. I'll tell you that right now. You know, I've been drawing for like 17 years now, like, in my mind, right, pushing as hard as I can, which is obviously, if it was true, I don't think I would have been where I'm at now. I would have made that mental switch a long time ago, but I have actively been working for 17 years, meaning, you know, like taking on side comic gigs and stuff like that. And which also plays into that part that, and I firmly believe this, that, you know, if I had that more of a professional attitude, I probably would have made that jump into the scary world of freelance art, whether that's working for a company or whatever that means, right? And that's sort of the path I'm going to be going down now. But I know I'm all over the place. You guys know me. That's how this goes. So we're going to wrap this up here. We're hitting about the sweet spot here, around 10 minutes. But before I go, I just want to give you guys a little update of what I'm working on and all that cool stuff. What I'm working on right now is, and this is something I apologize. I'll always go and deviate. So please leave comments if you have one. If I was starting a point and I left, or little topics or questions, I'd love to just open this up to you guys as well, just to sort of answer certain things, or if you guys have, you know, topics you'd like me to have an opinion on and all that crap. But anyway, what I want to do, the game plan going forward here is, I have again reached out to a couple editors at Marvel. For sample scripts, and I will be working on those. I'll probably explain maybe tomorrow. Let me write a little, you know, I'm going to start getting this little paper around here. Just write little notes for future episodes, because I just want to talk about why Marvel again, question mark. So talk about that tomorrow. So doing that, as well as getting back into JESOP King. Now I've got loads of ideas that I always want to get back into and start and fresh, and I love story creation, right? Because I find, like I told you, I found out that my why is storytelling, and JESOP King in this case, I've already established it. It's kind of moving. It has a slow start, and this next issue that I'm working on, it literally starts with a fight, right? Like I want to inject more action in it, more fun stuff, not necessarily just like two people talking, which is great, but just to spice it up. But I know those characters, and I can find out more about them by drawing more more comics, right, with them, and that's really exciting. But on the other side, and you guys know, this is one of the main reasons that played into for a long time where I couldn't commit to a comic book project. Because there's always that new and shiny. Because in a way, this is gonna sound friggin' way over the top, but I suppose I would imagine like a parent. I'm not a parent, but a parent or a mothering thing, where it's like it's the artist's way of creation, right? Like we get to create something, and that is super exciting. It's taking an idea, putting characters in there, character design, world design, jotting ideas. It's running in your head while you're in the shower, walking to work, you know, talking to a friend, but in your back of your head, you're still thinking about that character. That stuff is really exciting, and it's something I always chase. So, well, I was getting out of this little funk here. I was trying to think of some ideas. I didn't want to jump into JESOP. I wanted to try something just a little different. And I do intend to do this, but right now I know what it's like. I'm even just doing this little thing here. Plus the job, plus doing all this other stuff, I don't want to ever go back into the burnout stage, which will come eventually again. That's just the way this goes, right? But I don't want to put so much on my plate that I'm doing like 50,000 things, because then this isn't going to work out. There's no fun in it anymore. But that thing that I thought was really interesting and I wanted to try was an RPG style comic that's like a video game. In the terms of the readers, you guys would vote and leave a comment on like the decision for the comic to take. And I saw some people comparing it to a choose your own adventure. It's not quite like that, as well as it could be a lot of work, and I don't see it that way. Imagine like the first issue that I was going to post. I've already got it all plotted out, so it's ready to go whenever we fire all cylinders and get back into it. So it would explain the world, and then like a foot would get off of a carriage, and that's when you guys would get to decide. Do you want to play or do you want the comic to be, you're the main character, to be like a human warrior, an elvish thief, or a dwarven mage, I think it was. And whatever gets the most votes, well, then when I start the next chapter, you know, and these could be anywhere from like 6 to 20 pages or something, right? Then we pick up as that. You know, and as you go, you get items and level up and stuff like that. It's really exciting because it itches that or scratches that one itch of constant storytelling. I got to be on my feet the whole time, and you know, I'm actually really excited about that. But I put it on the back burner because I know my habits. And whoops, sorry. I guess that's my 15-minute timer. I guess we're going over it, so I'm going to wrap this up real quick. So I've gone back to JESOP. It's familiar. It's comfortable. This will get us back into the flow of doing things, and it sort of continues my commitment that I've started over the last 6 to 8 months of doing the first issue. And thank you, everybody, too, that's read it and left a comment. Even if you hate it and you think it sucks, thanks for even checking it out to get the opinion that it sucks. I appreciate it. People that have shared it around and stuff like that, I really do appreciate all that. But yeah, we're getting back into JESOP King. It feels like an old shoe, to be honest with you. I've already got it plotted out. I posted on Patreon yesterday, just like a little snapshot of the plots. They're blurred out except for the first little bit there. And just to let people know what's going on. So today, see, this is where I know I'm going to get in a little hamstring. I'm going to have to find a way to just stop talking about stuff and just sort of carry it over to tomorrow. But the last thing I wanted to wrap up with is my girlfriend, currently she's working like the morning shift, so she's up at 4 a.m. So what I've been doing is I've been getting up at 4 a.m. and then I got to get ready to go to work for 7:30 in the morning. So that gives me a nice chunk of time to just at my peak, you know, like I haven't expelled any mental effort or energy on anything else, especially at work. So I can just do this, and then when I get home, I can work on it again if I feel like it. If not, I've put in a solid work chunk that feels very momentous, which is great. So I'm working on a new character that will be in that story as well. And you know what? I'll probably, let me write that down. We'll talk about that tomorrow as well. New JESOP character. I still don't know if this guy is going to stay in as a permanent one. I have an idea of how he can like bounce in and out of that stuff. But anyway, I'm getting out of here. Yeah, I don't know how we're going to end these things just yet besides me saying goodbye. But anyway, thanks. I hope you guys dig this sort of thing. If not, cool. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. And take care. Good luck with whatever you're working on today. Bye-bye.